Hello, I'm Patrick Grady, the owner and operator of Global Flows, where we look at what's happening in the world with the flow of ideas, people, products, money. So today we have two interesting articles I'd like to call to your attention. One is about deglobalization, and the other is about exit bans on executives in China, American executives. You can go to our website here for any updates on news articles, blogs, um, or even this podcast. All right, let us move to the first article. Okay, this one's called Global Trade Falls at Fastest Pace Since the Pandemic. All right, so this is the trend that we're tracking here for deglobalization. Demand for goods exports weakens on the back of higher inflation, rate rises, and spending on services. So very interesting. The article in general is about world trade volumes falling at their fastest annual pace for almost 3 years, down 3.2%. It's the steepest drop since the early months of the coronavirus pandemic in August 2020. So I think the issue is that it's a trend that just keeps continuing. Um, on top of that, oil hit about $94 a barrel today. So that means that we can probably expect transportation costs to increase, although demand is down. So that'll be interesting to see how it plays out. This slowdown in trade has been driven by a number of factors. Rising interest rates are making it more expensive for businesses and consumers to borrow money, which is dampening demand for goods. I was in China in 2008, and I had developed several accounts in or several clients in the U.S. and Europe. And my business, I rented a small office, and I had two really great employees. And all of a sudden, all the business that I had generated went to pot because global trade just absolutely froze on the 2008 crisis. Um, Credit seized and freezed, and all the orders that I had in with factories were put on pause. So this news is quite scary for interest rates being high and businesses. The cost to borrow becomes more expensive, and as credit tightens, um, less and less orders will be placed. And what I think that will mean essentially is less imports equals more inflation because um, the supply of goods will be decreased. So we can expect more inflation as time goes on. Um, High inflation is also eating into disposable incomes, which means people don't have as much disposable incomes to spend on goods that are imported. And as we all know, later in October, within a month, student loan payments are going to be re-sparked. So that means even less disposable income. Geopolitical tensions, such as the war in Ukraine, are also disrupting supply chains and trade flows. You will see in the next article that this problem is exacerbated big time by having exit bans. Okay, and thirdly, economists expect world trade to remain weak in the coming months. So the trend is just that. So call to your attention this chart that shows global trade falling at fastest pace since the early pandemic. That's quite a decrease, and the trend is downward. So I see no reason. I think there's no reason to expect that geopolitical relationships would get better, and that's a scary proposition um, as we go forward. Or maybe not. Maybe that'll bring more jobs back to the United States. Although right now our unemployment rate is very low, a little over 3%. So we shall see. But absolutely 100% sure this is not good for the causes of inflation. Okay, now we're going to switch gears. We're going to go to the second article. from Wall Street Journal. Okay, in this article, China blocks executive at U.S. firm Kroll from leaving the mainland. Okay, move highlights an increasing risk facing foreign companies in China getting their employees out. Ooh, that's scary. I mean, certainly during the pandemic, I'm sure I don't have the statistics on it, but many expats fled China because of their, we'll call quote unquote draconian shutdowns. And I imagine that there are a very small percentage of what there used to be of expats living in China right now. So, but business people, are still there. And I remember in Shanghai, there's a huge expat community in Beijing as well. I lived in Shenzhen for over 10 years. And so we had one there also. But this is a story about this executive. And apparently they don't tell him that he's going to be unable to leave until he gets to the airport, prepares for his flight, and then gets, detained, which is really scary. So here are the highlights. Senior executive at U.S. risk advisory firm Kroll has been barred from leaving mainland China for the past 2 months. China has taken increasingly tough stance on foreign businesses this year, raiding offices and questioning staff. That's not really good for U.S.-China relations. The use of exit bans has become increasingly common, according to Western officials and human rights groups. No bueno. Okay, so I just wanted there are a couple of parts that I wanted to mention here. In March, authorities raided the Beijing offices of Mintz Group, detaining all 5 of the New York-based due diligence firm staff. The growing use of exit bans have added to concerns for foreign firms in China. Kroll has 5 offices, including Beijing, Shanghai, and Hong Kong. And Chinese authorities have taken an increasingly tough stance on foreign businesses this year. China's use of exit bans has contributed to the U.S. Department's advice to reconsider travel to the country due to its arbitrary enforcement of laws. China rejects that characterization as politically biased. So, if you don't know, I'm the general manager of Gathercraft, and Gathercraft is a manufacturer of furniture, specifically outdoor furniture, and a lot of our production is in China. So it's been many years since we were able to go back and do development work, and so we rely heavily on our staff in China. But it's a little bit scary actually to go to China when you hear stories like this. I mean, right now it's executives and the Chinese government, I think, doesn't want information to flow out that would be contrary to their um, Department of what's the word? Department of Propaganda. Yep. So we shall see where this leads. We'll post another video tomorrow. Okay. Thank you very much.